Ugly. Good evening, heroes and heroines. It is indeed the evening, just about. And welcome to Practising Programming in C, where we're going to get this database stuff working a bit more. Yesterday we managed to get through all of the compile errors, and we're now actually compiling. We just wait for like almost 2 whole seconds while that compiles. It compiles. So one of the things that we did yesterday was introducing the idea of signposted files. These are just basically files into which we have pointers, and whenever we need to cycle one of those files, in other words, whenever you sort of having written out something to that file, cycling the file is closing the file handle, freeing the buffer that contains the old contents of that file, and then reloading that file into our buffer. Having done that process, a signposted file needs to have its pointers put back into that buffer, essentially, and they need to be put back in at the right place. So that's one thing that we did yesterday. Is introducing these signposts. So you'll see the cycle signposted file does that. Performance. Yeah, and for now the signposts are just hard coded. So this particular signposted file, it has all these signposts, and the signposts are just for these specific things that we know that we need in the metadata file. So it's not flexible at all, and it also only takes one edit. And having worked through it yesterday, it seems like we can probably get away with just having the single edit. That seems like would probably suffice. I mean, we haven't tested it, so it might not do. But having gone through it, it seemed like you can just keep accumulating into the edit, whether you're deleting stuff or inserting stuff. It seems like it probably kind of works. And yeah, for our case here, it almost definitely does work. Because from memory, the only things that we actually do accumulate are landmarks and assets. And those things are not individually signposted. You've got the assets block signposted, which is fine. That's just going to be like the header above all the assets. But the assets themselves and the assets landmarks, they're not individually tracked, and we can just having re-signposted the assets block, we can just locate those assets again, no problem. The product header and the previous and next are completely separate. They're in a completely different block from the assets block. So again, there will be no kind of issues with sort of edits happening interspersed between these, so we'd have to offset these by different amounts, if you know what I mean. If you're doing one of those accumulated asset and landmark edits, then the entire accumulation will apply to all of these dudes, if they come after the assets block at all. So yeah, we did that. Now, one thing that we didn't actually do, recalled, is after cycling the signposted file, we don't actually set. So there's another question here. It's it's not a question, but another aspect of it. In the neighborhood, we have this project header pointer. We have a pointer to the project header. We also have this product index, which is just, it's literally one of these. It's a generation, an index, and then the pointer to the product header. which is kind of interesting, isn't it? Now that I think about it. Right. Where the hell is that gone? I'm looking at the neighbourhood. Just an over here. So the project index contains a pointer to the project header, which suggests, doesn't it? Just go back to the. Right, you can see right up there, DB header project pointer, DB header project pointer for the header. You know, that's totally suggests that we don't actually need this. And then rather than so the project index. So this part, basically the idea here is that this project index is going to be passed to locate project. Well, it's going to be passed to locate project. That's the guy that we would call. Well, I mean, for all that, we do also call locate entry. So the idea here is that as we're going through the assets, the asset landmarks, you see each landmark is going to store the project index, basically. Or rather, it's going to store the generation and the entry index. Sorry, it's going to store it. It's going to store the. I'll show you. Yeah, it's an asset landmark actually, is what it is. Isn't it? An asset DB landmark. Ah. So, yeah, now that I think about it, this can't actually contain a pointer, can it? That totally can't contain a pointer. Because that's going to be, I mean, it could do, it'd just be a waste of space. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, we want to be storing we want to store this in the database. I suppose what I'll do is I'm going to DB product index 5 that thing. I think that's going to be enough. And then what I think I might do is I might introduce a type def that's like let's not do it in here, let's do it down here. And also, for that matter, let's do it further down. Well, actually we need it in the neighbourhood, apparently. Could do this. Essentially, maybe we'll be within our rights to do it right here, actually. We're basically talking about bundling up these two pointers here, these two pieces of information. And it's going to contain both of these. Okay. So you got the project index, and then you got the project pointer. I think that's more like it, because the thing about the neighborhood is just a running thing. It's not stored in the database. It's not stored in the database, although it does point into the database in these cases here, and this case here. And the DB project index reasonably ends up being like that. I don't think we store that in here. I think entry index does needs to be a positive or negative number, because I think we use -1 for the search page, basically. These guys can be totally 64s. It's kind of funny actually that we've got these as 64-bit ones. Right, so there's 128 bits between these two dudes. So there's 128 bits in that. And then we've just got 32 and then 32. Might be worth just bumping that up to 64. I don't see there's any real problem. I mean, I think we wanted to keep the landmarks relatively small. I mean, frankly, we could probably get away with having only 16 bits for that. Is that right? Like 65,000 generations and 65,000 projects per generation. And then you've got your, well, I mean, you've kind of got, because it's a assigned thing, you've kind of got 60, again, you've got sort of 65,000 spaces for entries. And then you've got another one of these for your sort of hard-coded, negatively indexed ones. I guess this position actually could be, I think this is the most potentially problematic one, because this means that you can only have files that are 65 kilobytes large. You know, if you need a file that's larger than 65k, this ain't going to cut the mustard. Let's leave these as a little bit to do. Although I think, oops, this certainly I'm going to do. Right, so now that we've just changed that DB project index, DB project, and we've introduced the new project index, I think some stuff should not build, right? So we've got a project index, the accumulator generation. I think this should be the accumulator project, shouldn't it? Oh, that's the point. Index. Hold on a second. Yeah. I think here we're calling it a project, so maybe we just call it a project, because that's what. Yeah, let's call it a project, because like I say, that's what I wanted. I wanted to write that first. Now the problem here is that we've got this project, isn't it? Fucking hell. And then here, accumulator pointer, is that correct? I think it must be correct. Project. The landmark project. Hang on. It takes a project index, which is the thing that includes the pointer, which we do need to include the pointer, so that those guys can actually go and set it. Now this contains a DB project index 5. So the thing that the database has available, the database only has the DB project index, right? Which kind of suggests that the local entry needs to take that. And then it needs to actually set up a new one, a new thing here. And this is going to be the project, so it needs to set the project, the index and generation index, basically. Project, yeah, it's going to be a dot, so it's actually Um, yeah, can't we just do this? And then you pass that through to here. And then finally, it returns a DB entry. The neighborhoods. Project index pointer, isn't it? And then we do set that here. This is a void star. Again, it's just product index dot pointer, isn't it? Now these guys that we're looking through here, by the way, I think we need to make these actually make sure that we've got the thing set up correctly. Oops. End project. What's this complaining about? The landmark project. So that's the product index, product generation and index. Right, yeah, so this was just the well, hold on a second. I think this is actually what we want, isn't it? Product index. So I can take the whole lot. The entry index gets that. And the position is whatever it needs to be. Yeah, it's the index as opposed to the generation. Sorry, the yeah, it was the index, wasn't it? Well, hold on a second. Product index, project, yeah, it was project. That's what you want. Putting that bit out. Now the product header. So this was Was it that? No. Actually, hang on. Was it that? What is this not liking? The neighborhood. Oh, this was project index, wasn't it? I'm not 100% sure if this is at all reliably search and replaceable, by the way. Otherwise I would just do that. So yeah, I think that's what you want. Now, yeah, like I say, we are offsetting the signposts in the database file, but having offset those dudes, we're not necessarily actually making the neighborhood know about that stuff. So I think what you need to do is either not use the neighborhood at all and just use the stuff in the metadata, the DB metadata. So you go around all the dudes where the neighborhood is being used, and you actually just use you continuously cast all the crap that's stored in the signposts to the thing that it actually needs to be. Or after having done a cycle signposted file, you just make sure that you set the neighborhood's landmarks or the neighborhood's pointers correctly. And I think that's the way I'm going to do it. It's a bit cheesy. It's a bit like, it's one of those things you've got to make sure that you kind of maintain. I mean, it would be nice like if you could have make this an actual type, point to a type, but I don't think you can. It's also worth bearing in mind that since we call all this stuff these things, we know what they should be. You know what you need to be casting it to. Well, at least we do, because we know what these guys are supposed to be. And whenever you're setting them, you're always doing it manually. Yeah, don't know. yeah, what I propose we do here is we just go through all the places where this is getting called, and if the neighbourhood is available in that function, we basically update those neighbourhood pointers from the metadata. So you probably need a little function that does that. So there's nobody available there. I guess we just do a pass, right? We just go down all the times that cycle signposted file is used first, seeing if the neighbourhood is available. If the neighbourhood is available, then call the function. Then do another pass for all of the functions that don't have the neighbourhood available, and then just kind of pop up to their caller to see if they have the neighbourhood. You know, just basically pop up the stack until you've got to somewhere where you can set the neighbourhood. I think that sounds like a reasonable way of doing it. So the neighbourhood is available there. So here we go. I mean, I suppose also you could just say, you could make it take the actual file itself, signposts, right? So you can operate on the actual things. I suppose it's actually the same as the thing, isn't it? It's like a cycle signposted file. And for all that, actually, you shouldn't actually need to check. You don't need to check that the pointer is even set, honestly, in this case, because if it isn't set, it'll just get set to nothing, which is perfectly fine, I think. I'm also not setting the right thing. Right, yeah. Ah, Naval doesn't give a shit about that. Didn't we just say that this was actually available to this function? I thought we just found out that it was. Right. Insert into DB. Is that not where it was? Okay. Fine. So basically, right, the rule is just keep on going down the cycle posted file calls. If the end is available, use it. If not, don't. And for all that, you could just run it. You could just stick it straight in there. You need to log. Because if it's available, it gets sent. Yeah, what did I just say? Just try it. I think we did see though that wasn't available. I think this one here, the end this probably end next point is the evaluation was required enabled. I was thinking that end this could just become end next. Ah, hang on a minute. So end next. We need to. Possibly, but I do think that this might be a bit wrong, depending on how it all ends up going. Because this guy does get neighbourhood, doesn't it? If it's a deletion. No, if there's not a next. Next can't have been set, can it? By this point, I imagine. We're only ever setting this. We're not saying next ever, are we? So yeah, this might be a bit screwed up actually. I might have to just go through and completely figure out how this stuff is all supposed to be working again. Unfortunately. But if you determine that you don't go to deletion, I guess end this gets set here to the entry, so that's okay. Although it's a bit superfluous. Yeah, this just called sets the entry to that. Does it ever set the entry to nothing? There's end next. Is this where we were? Yeah, it is, isn't it? So we were just writing this file, this function. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what the deal is here with this end next situation. So let's leave it. Let's just keep going. I mean, for that, this thing does set. It sets this, doesn't it? And this is equal to the entry. This entry. And doesn't it then later set? So there's prev and index prev thingy. So it's never. Oh, actually, maybe we do need this. Could that be right? I mean, the thing is, we're skipping past this, aren't we? Right, we're writing out up to the file, and then we're skipping past this here. right? Which just suggests that the n this thing that it's pointing to will no longer be there, right? So I'm actually inclined to say it's this. Maybe let n next still exist. I think maybe this is what you want, but I'm not exactly sure. Let's just leave an A of D there. Alright, so that's all the ones that apparently have the n available to it. So now let's go back through the file, looking for all these guys. So that this guy doesn't have that available to it. An init block, this could come from anywhere, couldn't it, really? Is it available here? It is. So having updated the asset, I think you're entitled to do this. This guy doesn't have it. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? So yeah, there's multiple. So we're going back through the same function here, aren't we? Same function. So this guy, I'll just go back through. Init block cycles the signposted file. Right, and then we just went through that call stack. So the next instance of cycle signposted file happens in update asset in DB. Right, this doesn't have the neighborhood available to us. So we then go down and we see update asset. Now update asset is called by update asset in DB. And by generate topic colors. I don't know. That guy's got it. So the neighborhood pointers contain pointers into the project header and pointers to the pre, this and next entries. maybe actually, rather than, I think I might have done this slightly wrong. Rather than looking for, well, hang on a minute, what have I actually just done? Sorry, yeah, this would be right. So delete stale landmarks, you call that, and then immediately, so then immediately after calling that, if the neighbourhood is available after the call, then you call it. So we go through all this delete stale landmarks. So that should update the neighbourhood at the earliest opportunity for this thing. I think that's more like what I want to be doing. No, that doesn't get called again. We go back up these calls, so that gets the update neighbourhood pointers. That gets it, this doesn't get it. And that's the function, so this doesn't get it. Now, right, that just means the update asset, we need to call update neighbourhood pointers after that function, doesn't it? Okay, so that was a bit ad hoc, but let's just guess that that's okay. And keep it in the back of our minds that that could be broken. And move on. So yesterday we did this. Let's just do the initialization of a new DB header first of all. Separate out the wholesale creation of a DB from the addition of a new project. So let's just check something in the config.c. So apparently the projects can have their own assets root directory, which is pretty goddamn unfortunate. Yeah, it's very unfortunate, isn't it? Let's think about this. Yeah, they're in cache directory for that matter. I think clearly it needs to have its own HTML directory. So in player location, query string, search location, search template, search templates directory is fine, I think. Similarly, all this stuff. Now, if you allow projects to have their own assets directories, I just don't think that that's something that you want to be able to do. Because basically, if somebody wants to do that, what that means is that they want to be copying, like the Cinera underscore, the CSS file, the JS file, and the sprites for the icons, for the sport icons. That means that these people want to be copying those. You know, having multiple copies of these things. And for us, it would mean that you end up not being able to have a separate assets block that can index into multiple entries, multiple projects. You end up having to have an assets block per project, which just seems like complete garbage to me. Because you'd be like, when an asset gets updated, and a checksum needs to be done for it, you'd end up having to go into every single fucking project saying, does this project, does this specific project use this asset? If so, store the hash, change the hash for this asset in there, and do that for every single project. When in actual fact, whether or not a project uses it, the hash of that asset is going to need to be updated, right? And it's only then, for each individual landmark, you then go and see if a project even, it's only at that point that you see if you, right, having updated your hash in the database for this asset, well, I mean, this is the assets block, but for a specific asset, having updated that hash there, you then go, the way we're currently doing it is you go through all the assets landmarks, sniping, and the landmarks are sort of saying, in this entry of this project, at this location in the HTML file, snipe in the new checksum, right? So it's only at that point when you're actually updating the checksums, like the entry is the asset, the landmark itself contains what project is supposed to be a member of. So I'm inclined to say that we only ever have a global assets root directory that you set up at the root scope, right? And then that means that the actual config itself, if you look at the config, in addition to person and project, this thing is going to have to contain some strings for the assets root directory. It's basically these little dudes here. It's this. And for all that, I mean, maybe you lump in the query string as well, actually. Right, so it's like, you either have asset hashing enabled globally or you don't have it enabled globally, and that's just it. Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense to anyone, but it seems to make sense to me, so I think I'll just do it. So it doesn't come out of the current project, it comes out of the full config. Right. Yeah, let's try and do this. Is Cinera building? Okay, so it's only in the it's in here that it's failing. So what I suggest we do, let's pop back over to the config_full. I appreciate that we haven't been keeping up to date, but let's pop back over to there and get this working. Get the idea of get the idea of the config containing the stuff itself and the project not containing it. Let's actually just F0 it here. So that should just be fine, actually, shouldn't it? All this would mean, having done this, it should just mean that those things are never set. We should get warnings about them being... Well, they shouldn't even get absorbed either, should they, really? I don't know, let's see what happens. So yeah, so now these guys are just not set. So this isn't doing the casing sensitivity, which I guess we're fine with. So we're not pushing those guys onto here. We want to go to the config struct. Okay, so where is this? Is this add project? Push project, yeah. So basically push project, it now can't do this or that, or that. Print project, same here. Can't do any of this. So you see how we've got these guys up here, assets root directory and URL, CSS, images, JS, and query string. These won't get printed out now. So what we need to do is in push project onto config. See what this is called? So this gets called resolve variables. Okay, so yeah, it's resolve variables. Basically, what we need to say here is we need to loop over this person's pairs. And then we need to do what we're doing within push project onto config. So let's see if we can do this. Basically, resolve variables is the topmost thing in parse config. This happens, and then the push person onto config, push project onto config. So push person onto config is pushing it onto the result, pushing onto the config itself, right? So here we go. I guess same as the push project onto config. Well, I guess push the project, right? As we're doing this project tree pair count, all you really do is just nick these guys, don't you? Yeah, let's just copy them straight in. It's kind of nice that they're all pairs as well, actually. No, case I don't think we need to be switching on something, don't we? Well, should be in that other function, shouldn't it? Also, it's going to have to be a pointer to it, isn't it? Well, it already is. What is E in this context? Errors. So this guy has to be like that. Is that all it does? Do the guys only break, or does it do an error? Yeah, they do just break. Alright. So now we should be pushing those dudes onto the config. So then we're going to print config. I mean, It's just this, isn't it? Print project for the medium count, and it's not even a 4, is it? It's just like you just straight up print it, don't you? If they're set, then great. If not, then whatever. Whatevs. Can't think of anything that's going potentially to go wrong. Got the potential to go wrong there. Let's just take a look at cinera.conf and see where we're setting these dudes. So we've got the assets root directory. We're setting that to be that. We're setting this to be this. We're setting these guys to be that, and then we were going to set the equation to be R, but that it defaults to be R. So you can see in all of these guys, we're never caring about the family, right? We're never caring about anything like owner or family, anything to do with projects. This is strictly just a place where they just all go, isn't it? Yeah, I think that this is the better way to do it. Having a global assets thing, you just say that it's global. For the reasons I was talking about earlier, like if you allow assets per project, individual assets, thingamajigs per project, you just end up going down this entire rat hole of essentially duplicating stuff that's stored in the database just for the hell of it. You know, even if the data is all exactly the same, if you allow for the potential of them to be different, as we actually do for mediums, and that's something we'll have to handle that, right? You can sort of see in the listing here, right? We've now got the assets stuff. We've got the people up at the top and their support things, right? So these things are global. We just consider these guys to be canonical, like whatever is set for these things, that's just what they have. That's it. The same ain't true for mediums, right? So risky doesn't have a title, but here's a medium, the admin medium. We can see the difference in so in the risky projects, the blackboard medium actually has the name whiteboard. And the run medium has the name in application, right? And then here's thingy. But then if you look down to hero, the blackboard, shit, that is called whiteboard. What about run? Run is called in app. So I would just not configure these. Yeah, we just commented these guys out. So let's just uncomment that and let that actually happen. Where's in app coming from exactly, I wonder? Handmade Ray, Project Hero, Blackboard. Oh, is this broken? Because it's Handmade Hero. Hero title. What am I missing here? This might have broken. So blackboard's coming through there. Project. Oh, hang on a minute. Is it just permissions? So we do allow project.unit medium. Maybe I need to allow some more stuff. So blackboard just still comes through as whiteboard. Project medium name. Yeah, I wonder why that's happening. We've got medium up there. Project hero. So this guy is setting today. I think when you come into here, it's going to pull in the thing from the included. Oops. So it's going to try and pull it in, and then it's going to, it'll overwrite it with day. Yeah, so unit day is coming through. So if we don't do that, we should get it coming through as episode, shouldn't we? Yeah, so the unit comes through as episode like that. And the thing is, if you look at the included rules, if you don't permit that, then the unit should not be set. Oh, yeah, unfortunately, allowing the project allows the entire thing to come through, doesn't it? But the thing is though, if it allows, so say like for example you just do this, and then in the thingamajig file you say that the medium blackboard, if the name is blackboard, shouldn't that be coming through as well? Are we getting any errors? I wonder. Or warnings. Config warning. Yeah, this seems a bit not right, doesn't it? This might be something I need to investigate. Because if you do the medium, oh, they're not even in there. If you do these in the main file, oh hold on, did I not save it or something? No, blackboard's still coming through as whiteboard. So yeah, if I just do these guys inside hero up here, they work, don't they? Blackboard says it's getting set to blackboard, and the run is set to in game. It should be. Yeah. Let's make a note of that. basically like project medium name, really. I mean, right, let's just even that. Well, and also let's just copy it in. So yeah, let's park that for now, but park it for now and go back to what we're doing in terms of making the config contain the assets root directory. You know, all this stuff here. Where are we? Oh, this is config.c. So it's config underscore full.c, which we just changed. So I think all you need to do is what we just did. And let's do it kind of by hand, I think. So yeah, it was these guys. It was that. It was push project. You simply want to carve out these little dudes. Take these down to push. Well, it's resolve variable, isn't it? Right? It's basically that, wasn't it? I mean, frankly, why don't we just copy it? Right, so that happens. Do the errors get handled yet? So resolve variables happens, and I think after that it's just the config structure itself we need to add the stuff to, which we have done. Project no longer contains that stuff. And then it's just the print, isn't it? Print projects. Can no longer print out those little dudes. mean, actually, I guess just delete, frankly. Right, yeah, so here we go. Assets root URL, it's just going to be the config. Right, this fucker here. So that's it. So we're pulling this straight out of the config, which means that when we do the initdb, this asset block here, you actually, rather than using the current project here, you use the config. And this is just it's just checking well formedness. So this ain't actually what we want to be doing at all. All we care about is this stuff down here. So if we just toggle AFD back on, should hit these errors. So what's he complaining about? Entries header. Yeah. So I think separating out the wholesale creation is still what we want to be doing. But I think what you want to say is this. Projects block, okay. To recall DB block project, DB header project, but when you call the actual thing, it's like projects block and project header. check that the block it contains a block ID and account. Now what about the block asset? Alright, so that contains all this stuff. So that's fine. So yeah, we just established the projects block only contains the 4 C2C and the count. We need to increment the block count. Now, the assets block needs to have this. The count is 0, so that's the number of assets. And then we need to clear copy string no format, I suggest. Is that true? I mean, it wouldn't matter either way in terms of the like the time it'll take. So we initialize the DB. It's gonna be, it's gonna be initialized to cleared. So when we actually call init DB, there'll be nothing in it. Right. So I think, yeah, we can reasonably sort of not bother to clear it. Now, assets block. Yes, this is what we want to do. I suppose it's worth bearing in mind that this thing is sized. Oh, it knows that it's a string, so that's fine. So yeah, then we're initializing a new dude. So we open that up, we write the header, we write out the projects block, and the assets block, and then we close, read file into buffer. So we're not cycling in this instance because the thing doesn't have it doesn't have a buffer, right? So there's nothing to free, and this writes out its own crap to that db file. Now, this fwrite db assets block, we could actually do the following. I mean, we could just sit right here. It's like db metadata right. This is the place where I want to write out the assets block. And then after having done that, you can just sort of say There we have it. So that's set up that thing for us. It's made our assets block pointer. So yeah, I feel reasonably confident that that's what we want to be doing. Header, the block count. Consider allowing 0 proj or asset blocks in a future version. I think we just continue to consider that, I think. Remove to play your previous copy here. Now these copy strings here, I think we're going to be guided by the actual DB header project thing, right? When we add a new project, we will want to, we'll have to add these things, set these things, and we're going to be guided by this structure, essentially. So I think we should be fine with that. We don't need to preserve any of this stuff, in other words. Do we increment the block count in both cases? Yeah, we do. So yeah, we increment the block count there, and then down here. So project block ID proj. The assets block ID is asset. And yeah, I suppose implicit in all of this actually is that we're putting the projects block first, followed by the assets block. Now, So yeah, again, this is purely to check for malformedness, which I think is just okay. Cycling a signposted file. I mean, at which point this code should continue to work, whatever that code was. Yeah, it kind of should, shouldn't it? But we're sort of re-specifying it so that a block is literally like one of them, like that. That's just the place where all of those assets sit, or all of the projects sit. So I guess multiple occurrences of block type isn't really an applicable thing. Let's leave that to do. So yeah, cycling the signposted file. I think this is saying if. So this, we have set the assets pointer block. So that is going to be set. I think we need to like, although we haven't set an edit point, although we're not like inserting anything that's like going to increase or decrease the size of the file, so none of the pointers will actually get moved. I think we still need to actually set those guys up. So that this thing maybe it doesn't matter in this case actually. Basically, if the assets block pointer is going to be set, and then we're going to do the set signpost offset. So this is going to take in these guys here. There's going to be no edit. There will be a byte, but if the byte is greater than the byte position, which it kind of will be, we want to increment that by the size, but the size is going to be blank anyway. Is that right? So we're setting the pointer here. Sorry, we're setting the pointer on this line here to be that. I think we're fine down here, aren't we? Because we've saved off the asset block byte specially, and it's only once down here that we can actually set a pointer at all. So this needs to be hard set here. We can't call. Well, I mean, we're not calling the cycle function anyway, so that's completely irrelevant. It's just up here where we set that pointer. This guy is going to come in. He's going to see, is that pointer set? If it is, then we're going to do set signpost offset. And it just offset those by the edit size. And like I say, maybe let's do it actually. Actually, hang on a second. This is going to write out that. It's going to write out the size of the header. Shouldn't this be writing out some more stuff? I think this should totally be writing out some more stuff than it is doing. They basically here has to write out the thing. It's not good enough to simply skip it. I think you need to skip it and say yeah, I mean bytes written. We always know what the bytes written is from the DB header, don't we? Right, you can see ftell the DB header. So we write out that, and then we do this, and then we want to say this. We skip past it. So if it's a project block, then we skip past that block, and then we need to actually write out the stuff, right? Between our new location and where the file's right cursor is, right? We want to write out I mean, it is just this, isn't it? frankly. Could I not just also... So I wanted to be talking about a buffer here. I think that should do everything, shouldn't it? Because basically it skips and then it writes, skips, writes. And then having skipped and written, if it was well formed, we should have printed everything at this point, shouldn't we? So I guess when we get down here, we can say we could also say so yeah, this is basically saying here now the file edit position is going to be right at the end, which is going to be after everybody. So implicitly, you don't need to offset any pointers. you just set them to be where they actually get set to. This dude. And yeah, the reason that we write these guys out, by the way, is so that you can actually set their current version number. In fact, now that I think about it, why the hell don't you just say that you take a pointer straight into the file? And then just hard set that stuff in the buffer. Then go through all of this process, skipping it. If you get through, no problem. Then you just write out the entire file. Right? Oh, actually, I suppose, yeah, this guy allows you to do this. But still, by the same token, that doesn't like... We still want to do this. You know, the if this. We still want to iterate through these guys, but it's just setting the signpost that you want to be able to do. Yeah, let's just do that. I think it'll be fine. And then you just fuck that and you just say this. Well, not quite that. Hold on. Jesus Christ. You just do that. And then you don't write that out there. I'm going to have to open it up. You don't bother to write that out. You do skip past the thingy. Mind you, again, like you can't get here. I don't think you can get to here without hitting the mouthful method to file. You know, because you're going to skip past the block. I suppose the skipping block could fail, couldn't it? Now that I think about it. Like you might have not enough stuff in it. Right, yeah, I guess we need to be a bit more careful about this, don't we? I think we need to also additionally say, do we not have we don't have the buffer, do we? That's kind of interesting. I think we need to change how this works. Oh, sorry, of course we do, because we're talking about the DB metadata. So of course we have that available to us. So you've got a pointer to the block. Yeah, I think these increments here, we need to make these actually care about the amount left. So let's just do that. Thinking of just wrapping up this stream here, by the way, and going to get something to eat. I think that's what it is, metadata file buffer. Yeah, in initdb, I think after having done all of this lot, you skipped over the dudes, you just like open the handle and you just write out the file. Or rather, yeah, you just do that. And also, now that I think about it, but yeah, like I say, I think if you're ever going to see this, you're probably going to necessarily see this as well, I think. Or to put it another way, I think if you're ever going to see this, you will necessarily have seen this. So, yeah. Yeah, let's just delete it. Alright, so I'm reasonably satisfied that this is now doing some sane-ish stuff. What we're not doing, I don't think, is this, is it? We're not initializing projects in DB. So that's the next thing we need to do. We need to initialize the project in a DB, and I think probably what we're going to do is, well, we might just start off by cheating out and just saying that we're only going to initialize the project that we've actually been given. We're only going to initialize the current project, and as we're only going to have one in it, the project generation and index will necessarily be 0 because there's only one in it. So then I think all the asset stuff should be able to continue to index into that particular project. The real thing will have to actually initialize the entire hierarchy of projects. But we're not going to do that first. We're going to just first of all do one project using the new blocks. Before I forget, actually, I was thinking of changing one of the variables. So we've got a family variable. So we've got this family variable here, which we're using in the HTML dir, and we don't really use it anywhere else. Base dir used to use it. Yeah, I don't know, but we'll at least use it here. Now the family, all it does is it kind of outputs the. Well, I can show you. So this is the HTML dir that we're talking about here. If I just run config full and look for the HTML dir, you end up producing from this whole thing here, you end up with home mat git, and then all of that stuff past Cinera network, the owner sorry, and then you've got the family hero and array. Right, so it basically outputs essentially the hierarchy. But I think calling it the family is a bit misleading, because family suggests, like, essentially when you think of a family tree, you've got siblings, but it's basically just siblings, really. So you've got like your parents, your siblings, and you've got also your children, right? I think what we want to do, what might be a bit better, would be to change this variable to be called lineage, right? So it's just that, and then that is going to just be all of your parents down to you, basically. I think that's more sensible, I think. Although it's a rarer word, like you don't use the word lineage as often as you use family. Like it's just not. I don't think it's as common a word. I just think it's a bit more. I don't know. It's a bit more of an accurate description of what you're actually doing. So yeah, that's just an idea that I've thought about. I keep thinking about it off stream, but forgetting. So there we go. But yeah, I'm gonna get some food now. Done a couple of hours, 1.5 hours, 2.5 hours. get some food, and then let's see about initializing a project. So thank you very much, Heroes and Heroines, for now. It's been beautiful, fantastic, and inspirational. And most of all, thanks for happening. Until next time, farewell for now.